Hi, I'm Pravar Koundinya, and I'm presenting from Fairfax County, Virginia. I'm a junior at Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, and my mentor's name is Adrian Yee. My research project is on a new type of car jack that allows for the users to move their car around while it's lifted up. Since my project is still ongoing and I haven't finished building a model of my proposed design, I'll cover everything that I've done thus far. I'd like to start off by talking about where this idea came from. Car jacks come standard with every car, including the trunk with the spare tires, but they're only useful for their one purpose. They can only be used to lift one corner of a vehicle up, which can be very useless in emergency situations such as minor accidents or breakdowns, scenarios where the car needs to be moved out of oncoming traffic as soon as possible. I was inspired to create this new type of car jack after witnessing a minor PHEV crash on a narrow two-lane road behind my house, which left the car immobile. The inability to put the car in neutral clearing process, causing a delay of over 2 hours. This incident prompted me to explore solutions to expedite accident clearance, among other things, trying to create a product that allows for quick and easy movement of cars without needing to start them up. Both professionals and the hobbyist will be able to make use of such a product, as it allows for various use cases. Professionals and civilians alike will benefit from this product in minor crashes or breakdowns in the middle of the road, as shown in the bottom image, where the car needs to be moved out of oncoming traffic as quickly as possible. It can also be used in tight workshops, either at home or mechanics, or car dealerships as pictured in order to allow cars to be moved around. Worries about the turning radii or having to start the car up can be solved due to the car's jack's ability to move the car in any direction allowed for by its omnidirectional wheels. Now we'll delve into some of the most common types of car jacks that exist today, specifically the mechanisms used to lift the cars up. In the blue rectangle is the basic scissor jack, one that comes with all cars to help you change a punctured tire in emergencies. It uses a screw running down the middle, which when twisted, pulls together the two horizontal ends of the rhombus-shaped frame, thereby pushing the vertical corners up and lifting the car. The screw in this case is turned by the user using a tool to provide extra leverage. The pink rectangle contains a motorized scissor jack, where the only difference is that now the screw is turned using a motor attached to the side. Within the green rectangles are pneumatic jacks, which use pressurized air to lift the car up. The one on top is a more standard type that uses airbags to slowly lift the car up, while the image on the bottom shows air jacks most commonly found on race cars. These are much more expensive and are meant to lift all four corners of the car as quickly as possible and then drop it down instantly. Both these jacks require a separate tank of pressurized air in order to function, making them cumbersome and hard to transport. Finally, surrounded in the white border is the hydraulic jack, which uses hydraulic fluid to provide a mechanical advantage to the user in order to help lift the car. The lever to the rear is connected to hydraulic pistons, and when pushed down, provides a great mechanical advantage to lift the car up. This form of jack is mostly manual, but some motorized versions can be found as well. So what are the limitations of all these jacks? In order to move a car off the road and do it quickly, they need to meet three important criteria. Firstly, they need to allow the car to move while lifted up, which none of them do. The closest they get is by using separate dollies onto which they lower the car. Secondly, they aren't light enough or small enough to be portable, not when you want all four corners of the car off the ground. The air jacks especially are the worst since they require the extra tank of pressurized air. The smallest ones are the manually operated scissor jacks, but those don't allow for movement or motorized operation. Finally, they aren't quick to lift, and if they are, they aren't portable. Essentially, none of the existing jacks meet all three criteria. So we come to my design. The main features of my proposed design are as follows. Since it'll have wheels on the bottom and lift all four corners of the car, it'll allow for the car to be moved around without needing to rely on its own wheels, which will prove very useful in emergency situations. The design is also very portable, even with four jacks, since they all compress down to around 4-inch thick plates, fitting easily in the trunk of any car. As well as being portable, my design is easy to use, powered using the car's battery via the cigarette port, requiring minimal setup before it can lift the car. Once set up, it should only take 35 seconds to fully raise, meaning that within around 5 minutes, the car should be up and moving, clearing the way for the traffic. It can be moved by pushing on the lifted car and in any direction, as the wheels on the jack will be omnidirectional. In cases where the road is excessively sloped, the wheels will have a lock so that the car can be stopped when desired. It can also be used in auto repair shops and car dealerships to more quickly move cars around in tight spaces. The diagrams to the left show the placement of the jacks, as well as how the car will look when lifted up. You can also see in the far right image that the 4 jacks are operated simultaneously by one button, connected via wires to all the jacks, as well as the cigarette port for power inside the car. Now, for reference, if released into today's car jack market, it would compete with the more expensive class of motorized jacks at around $1,000, while providing much more functionality than its competitors. As depicted here, my design doesn't have the wheels, since this CAD model was also used to run an FEA stress test. The wheels aren't anything special and can be found online and will be fitted to the bottom to allow for movement. This is also showing only one of 4 jacks that will be required. The main jack uses 2 scissor mechanisms with the screws powered by a motor to which they're connected using a ribbed belt. The motor is also anchored to the scissor mechanisms directly, as you can see in the top right image, so that it can rise with the screw and maintain the proper tension in the belt. This stress test shows what happens when the jack is under a load of 9,800 newtons or 2,200 pounds. For reference, the average sedan weighs just over 3,000 pounds. The deformation is represented in colors, with the blue showing the parts of the jack that are least stressed and green and yellow increasing in stress in that order. As you can see, for a car jack that only needs to carry a quarter of the weight of a sedan, the deformation shown here is very low, considering it's tested at nearly the full weight of the car. Thank you for listening, and I'm ready for any questions.
Nice work. Yeah, I for one, I'm remodeling a truck with my dad in my free time. That's what I usually do on my weekends when I'm not moderating panels. And the amount of times we've had to put that thing on just a jerry-rigged amount of dollies to try to move it in any direction. It doesn't have an engine, so it doesn't really move in the right way, or the way you'd expect many cars to move. Cool. Can you discuss at all the expected cost for this? Did you take a look at what it might look like to operationalize something like this?
Yeah, so currently, I'd say the air jacks that I discussed that are used mostly on race cars, they get closest to what I'm going for, as they lift all 4 corners of the car, but they don't move the car around. But they stand at around $2,000 to $2,500 for the average person to buy, depending on brand and
Sure.
grade of jack you want. So that's on where they stand. Whereas the motorized scissor jacks are much cheaper at maybe $700 to $1,500. I'm aiming to set my jacks as a set, all 4 of them. I want them to come in at around $1,000. So they're not cheap, but for what they do, I think it's definitely a reasonable price, considering they do something that no other jack on the market does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Veronica asks, are there any other steps you can think about to miss over the goal line? You did the stress test, we have a model. What are the next kind of steps to bring it to a website where me and my dad can go to and give you a grand to make our lives easier?
Yeah. So I'm currently working on building the proof of concept. So I've created, as you saw, I've created the CAD model and stress tested it. My next steps are now to actually get my materials and start creating my first prototype and see if it actually works. So see if it can lift up the weight that I can.
Yeah, and see if it's working in real life. Awesome, great. That was an awesome presentation. Thanks for sharing.